Hey y'all, today we're making this Enchanted Rose Crystal inspired by Beauty and the Beast, so I hope you enjoy. Okay, so you're going to need some mini roses. These are real dried homegrown roses you can find in my Etsy shop, or you can make one out of polymer clay. First you'll need some scrap clay. We're going to make the crystal shape. Make sure to have your rose handy so that you can tell what size your crystal needs to be. You want your rose to be able to fit inside your crystal. In hindsight, I wish I would have made the top of the crystal shape a little more ornate, but you can do whatever you want. Go ahead and pre-bake that and cover it with glaze and let that dry, and then roll out some more scrap clay to make the base for your mold. Make sure to seal all of the edges. We don't want any of the mold putty seeping out of any openings. Go ahead and pre-bake your mold base, and you can either glue down your crystal shape or not. Mix up your mold putty according to the directions. You can find the links to the one that I used on the blog post in the info box below. Go ahead and wait for your mold putty to set, and then you can peel off the mold around your putty. Obviously, if you don't glue down your crystal shape, you may have to cut the putty a little bit because it might float up, but everything should be nice and smooth inside. Depending on your rose, you may want to trim some of the little leaf buds. I wanted mine much smaller so that you could see more of the actual petals, and I'm just using little embroidery scissors. You can find links to these scissors again and the rose in the info box below. This rose petal was sticking out anyway, and I wanted to have one petal at the bottom of the crystal to make it look like it had fallen and was suspended in a little block of ice. Once you're satisfied with your trimming, go ahead and mix up some of your resin. I'm using a 1-to-1 ratio resin. You have to be careful with resins with using biological agents. 1-to-2 ratio or 1-to-3 ratio resins can sometimes be too caustic and damage your florals or any other biological compounds you're using. Once your resin is nice and mixed and there are no striations left in your mixed resin, go ahead and take a disposable cheap paintbrush that comes in like a little watercolor kit or something that you're not going to use again, and coat your entire rose in the resin, and this will help keep the bubbles to a minimum, especially the big bubbles, and make sure to get the resin on the inside, like drip it down inside the rose and in between the petals. This is going to help a lot with the bubbles. And then you'll need to wait and let the bubbles dissipate in the resin itself, so that when you pour it, you just don't have to deal with them as much. Make sure to hold your rose up to your mold to see how long the stem needs to be and trim accordingly. Then place your rose gently in your mold and pour the resin on top of it, and you can always move it later. Plus we're going to be adding some little fairy dust and mylar sheets and the fallen rose petal to make it all look very magical. A little tip, you can keep a small cloth or cotton ball nearby with some acetone, and that can help clean all of your tools and everything of the resin. It's a solvent of resin, and it'll break it down and keep your tools from getting yucky. Ideally, like I said, I would have preferred to wait longer to let all of the resin bubbles dissipate, but I was in a hurry because my son was about to get home from school. So my finished product did have more bubbles in it than I would have liked, but you still get the picture of what it is. I didn't actually make enough resin to fill the mold completely. I think I used 5 milliliters and my mold was a little bit bigger than that. So I mixed up a second batch. This is where I'm adding just a little bit of fairy dust. You can find this on my Etsy store. It's just a little higher micron than regular shimmer of silver mica powder, and it catches the light really, really well, gives a very enchanting look to resin pieces. I love it. And I sell it in small quantities, so you can use it for 1 or 2 projects and you don't end up with a whole 4 ounces of it. Once your resin is finished curing, pop your piece out of the mold, and you can fill in the extra little convex pieces back here with just a little extra resin. I went ahead and brushed a coat of extra resin on mine to make it a little more smooth and shiny. It came out looking a little too much like an ice shard. It was hard to see the rose, but I really like how it turned out. And then up here I just drilled with a little hand jewelry or woodworking drill, and put a screw eye in there and secured it with some more resin and a split ring and little chain. You can find these chains on my Etsy shop. They're 1.2 millimeter diamond cut rope chains. They're 925 sterling silver, and they're coated with rhodium, which is the white gold plating that makes white gold super silver and shiny. So anyway, if you want to make some kind of little cap or make the crystal a little more ornate on the top, you can do that. Otherwise, here is your Enchanted Rose charm, and I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Click subscribe if you'd like to see more crafting and gardening tutorials, and thank you for watching.